Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Medium's Porch. Welcome back. And if this is your first time here, know that this is part of the LILYDALE Assembly series of videos and podcasts that we do. And the Medium's Porch, we are here to bring you the power, process, and privilege of working with spirit and doing spirit communication. And because of that, I like to interview global mediums from around the world. And we do have a guest with us today, but I will have a few things that I want to share with you before we get started with our interview. I am grateful to have you here, and please let us know you're here because I know my guest here is going to want to hear from you. And do comment in the section below. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what you're thinking. It's all really, really helpful. And when you do that, it gets it out to other people so that they have the opportunity to learn and grow from these interviews as well. So drop us a comment. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to just bust into some of these announcements that I have today. The LILYDALE Assembly season is already up and announced. So for those of you that don't know that, you can go to lilydaleassembly.org. The links for anything I'm going to say today, by the way, are in the comment section below. At that website, you're going to see all the classes that are being offered, the special events. You're going to get the list of mediums. I'll be on that list because I am a registered medium there, and I will be doing readings this summer. I am starting to book those readings. So if you want to get in to get that session booked, I recommend booking in advance. So give us a call, give me a call. My phone number will be on the website, but you can also send me a note email. And starting May 1st, you'll be able to sign up, and you'll be able to sign up directly off my website and make your payment in advance. So that is all set up for you. As a registered medium, there are many things going on, and one of the things I do is I teach. And the teaching class that I'm going to be doing this summer, we have a class for magnetism, or not magnetism. Um, it's called the magnetic medium because I want to talk about our energy. I want to talk about the healing. I want to give you the opportunity to experience what it's like to be the attractor of the energy required to connect with spirit. And there's more about that on the lilydaleassembly.org page. There are still online classes going on. So if you're still wanting to catch some classes before the summer starts, you can look at the website as well, and you'll find that information there. Now, these podcasts, if you don't catch them live or they're not actually live, I record them ahead of time and then I upload them. That's because of a technical thing. If you want to watch them again, you can always watch them again on my Facebook page, Spiritual Medium Kathleen, on my website, and also on the YouTube page. So I have a YouTube page. It's under @Medium Kathleen. Just go to YouTube and then type in @Medium Kathleen, and you're going to see all the other podcasts that we've done here, Medium's Porch, and you'll get to hear all the interviews with all the other mediums that we've spent some time with. So I want to check in with you real quick. Are you someone with what they call the gift? Are you someone that is tapping into your intuition or building your intuition? Do you find that you get spiritual insights? Are you connected to spirit? And if you aren't, or you feel you might be, there's an opportunity coming up where I'm going to be setting up a membership and giving lots of opportunities to you to grow that gift through classes and through exchanges of information. And if you like receiving messages from Spirit, I'm going to be doing that as well. So if you want more information on the membership that's up and coming, and it will be affordable, not to worry, you can get in touch with me as well. You can send me an email, you can send a note below, you can sign in the comments that you're interested, and I'll track you down that way and just send you a response to your either messenger. If you're doing me a Facebook comment, you can leave your email or send me that information directly on my website, where I have a contact page where you can send me a note and tell me your story. That will be great. All right, super. So the season begins in LILYDALE on June 20th and it ends August 31st. So you've got that window of time when we'll have all the special events going, the outdoor services, we'll have the messaging service. I'll be doing the auditorium message service for the full hour on the 27th at 4 p.m. That's 27th of July. And again, like I said, if you want to book any classes or guest houses, you may want to, or even meetings mediums, you may want to do that in advance. So take a minute to just check that out. I'm strongly encouraging it now because it's a good time to start planning those 90 days ahead so you can get your summer set up for you. So it's your best summer yet. Awesome. So I have with us today a guest. She is a friend of mine, and we met a long time ago at an online class that we're doing. We both have a mentor we know as Eileen Davies. There is a video where I was interviewing her as well, and this is where I met Betty. And Betty Kajumo, she is a psychic medium, a speaker, a Reiki master, and a teacher. She provides private sittings, demonstrations of mediumship, and is a speaker host on the Assembly of Spirit Inspirations, an online spiritualist seeker service in the UK. She is mentored with Eileen Davies, as I mentioned, Anne-Marie Bond, Roger Coleman, and she's also studied at the Arthur Findlay College, Stansted, United Kingdom. From a young age, Betty has felt a deep connection with the spirit world and a strong intuition about the unseen forces that surround us. It was in 1983 when she experienced a personal tragedy, and she started to fully embrace her gifts thereafter, her clairvoyance, her clairsentience, and her clairaudience. The spiritual journey of discovering and developing her abilities has been a transformative one. And many of you that have been through this process and are now working as mediums will definitely relate to that. Through the years of study and practice, Betty honed her abilities as a psychic medium and developed a deep understanding of the spiritual realm. Today, Betty's other services include speaking engagements, group events, training, and spiritual guidance. And I would also say today she is a podcast guest, not host, guest. So, Betty, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kathleen. I'm so happy to be, and it's full to have this opportunity to chat with you on your podcast. So I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yes, and we had already warmed up for this by doing another show, didn't we? I mean, you probably saw it if you were a viewer on Facebook, you would have seen that we were going to go up and do our podcast, but we had technical difficulties, and it's still Mercury retrograde when we're recording this. So let's cross our fingers.
Yeah,
All
let's
right,
hope
Betty.
nothing happens today.
Yeah, exactly. So Betty here is going to tell us, hopefully, is going to tell us a little bit what it's like for you, Betty, to be a spiritual medium. What does it mean to you? What's the call that you feel to come back to it again and again?
For me, it's the part of healing, the part where I am able to bring a sense of, I want to say closure, but that's not the right word. But I want to say that sense of it's not the end, that my loved one has left. My loved one is still here. And people leave because they don't understand what is happening to their loved one. Where are they? What is to them right now? And because from a very young, I came across grief. And in the community I lived, I was to see a lot of funerals. And sometimes I would be attending a funeral as a child, see people cry, to see people have that feeling and that sense of helplessness. I often wondered, I wonder what if there's something that's say or someone can do to make them feel. But also I had my own questions as to what really happens. What happens to them? Where are they? And what is the transition like? So mediumship for me has been a journey and an experience where I have enjoyed. I have really felt like I was putting myself out there to help someone. I was holding someone, holding their hand, holding them in spirit, and helping them to understand that we don't die. We live on, and your loved one is only a breath away.
And a lot of people do come to us for that, don't they? They come for that reassurance that there is something more because our religions, traditional religions, have hinted that there was a life hereafter. I just love with my discovery, very much like you, that I had a difficulty that I went through, and it started to, and you start to ask all these questions, and I love that it pushed me beyond the tradition. It pushed me beyond the boundaries of what I grew up with. And it really made me start to question a lot of things differently than I had done before my father had passed away. So, yeah, we come for reassurance, don't we?
Yes, we do. We do. We definitely do. And I know that when you were talking about the tragedy that I experienced personally, I would say that that was actually the door that was opened for me to realize that my loved one was not far away. And it started with a prophecy. I had a very, very vivid dream that came 3 times, showing me the death of my brother. It showed me, I saw that he had a car accident. I saw that my father was calling me to tell me about his death. I actually had the conversation in that dream with my father, asking him, what happened? How do you know? Prove it. And my father said, I know that he has passed because I just came back from the mortuary where I identified his body. But the detail of that dream, it was so detailed that on the day it happened, a month to the day that it happened, when my dad called me, just like in my dream, it just unfolded the same way. Phone rang, my dad was on the phone. I asked him, how are you? He asked me, I'm sorry, how are you? I said, I am fine. I said, how are you? He says, I'm not well. I'm not okay. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, your brother passed away today around 7:30. And exactly like in my dream. And I said to him, can I call you back? Because I was not sure at that moment that I've been through this already. Is this a dream or is this a reality? I just need a moment to really process that. And I stood there, I was in my bedroom. I stood there and I said, I'm not sleeping. I'm wide awake. I can hear the cars on the street outside, so I'm not asleep. And I called him back and I heard my mother cry. I could hear her crying in the background. I could hear other people cry, and I knew this was real. So that experience was really something that really shook me because, first of all, I already had that dream, that prophecy. But that day, that very day, before it happened, hours before it happened, all the lights in my apartment began to flicker around 7:30. And that's around the time he passed. All the lights started to flicker. And my TV just turned on and off, on and off. And I thought, I wonder what's going on. It must be electricity or something. I went to the main switch, I turned it off, turned it back on, I came back. The lights were steady for, I think, 2-3 seconds and kept on flickering. The TV kept going on and off. And that was very unusual because you have to turn on the TV for it to come back on, but it was just doing it by itself. And so I went out of the apartment, looked outside, and everything seems normal. I went to my neighbor and I said, are you having problems with the lights? And they said, no, we're not having any problems. Are you having? I said, yes. And they said, well, if you want to watch Dallas, because Dallas was at around 7:30. And they said, well,
Yeah.
it's Dallas, so you come and watch here, come here and watch in our house. And I said, no, I want to watch it at my house. So I went back, lights were still flickering, and I thought, well, I obviously have a fault, something is going on, and I won't be able to watch Dallas, so I'll just wait, maybe it'll figure itself out. And it didn't for about 20 minutes. And then I think maybe 30 minutes, and then it stopped. But the lights stayed dim. They stayed dim until my dad made the call at about 3 hours later. when he called and told me. So that experience taught me a lot, that they are not far away from us. And that when he passed, obviously he wanted to say goodbye. He wanted to communicate with me. And that's why he, he came to my apartment. And the only way that he could make his presence known was with electricity. And so I have never forgotten that day. And I feel that that was the day that really brought me into mediumship, that really made me curious about what is this? Why did I know this? Why is it that I couldn't tell him? Because I tried to call him after the dream. I tried to call him for about 4 days, and he was not calling me back. And then when I finally got hold of him, I forgot the purpose of my call. And we started talking about all kinds of things. We laughed and we ended, the phone call. And then when I hung up is when I remember that the purpose of that call was to tell him that you had this
Right.
dream, he needs to be careful. And then something told me, no, it's fine because, you talked to him and he was laughing, he was happy. There's no need to tell him. But I believe that I was not supposed to tell him. I was not supposed to share that information. That information was for me. It was to prepare me for our separation in this
Mm.
life. And yes.
To say it's fascinating that you had intuition and had access to some of the abilities in a younger place. Was that the first time that you'd had physical phenomena that you had witnessed
No.
yourself? So you'd had,
Well, yes. Well, that was one that is significant, and I think I pay attention to it a lot because that was my brother.
yes. Oh,
But
of course. Yes.
yeah, before that, I used to have things that I would know. Like I could look at someone and just know that something was going to happen to them, and I would be able to say what it was. And there were times when I remember one incident where my father's friend came to visit, and he came with two other gentlemen. So there were three gentlemen, and they came. They had a very short visit with my dad. But when they arrived, I was playing outside with my two brothers, and the car came and stopped in front of the house. The three gentlemen came out of the car and they said hello to us. And then my mother opened the door and she welcomed them in, and they were in there. And as they were walking towards the front door where my mother was standing with the door open, I remember telling my brothers, I said, that man, the one in the middle, I said, he's going to die. And my two brothers laughed and they said, oh, how do you know that? And, I know that. And they were laughing. And I said, I don't know, but I just know that he's going to die. And anyway, they went into the house. They had a visit with my parents. And then my parents came out, escorted them to, walk them to the car. And then they drove off. And I couldn't stop looking at them getting into the car. I couldn't stop looking at that man. I couldn't stop watching them drive away until the car disappeared. And I just had this feeling that that was the last time I was seeing him. And we went for dinner. And one of my brothers said, Dad, Betty was saying that the gentleman, the one that was wearing the black suit, she said that he's going to die. And my dad laughed and he says, oh, that's not going to happen. Why would you say that? And I felt like I don't have any proof, but I just know. And I said, I don't know. I just know. And he says, oh no, it's not going to happen. Following week, my dad came very early for lunch. And when he got into the house, he asked us to leave to go outside. He wanted to talk to my mother, so we went outside. And then I heard my mother gasp and like in shock. And then they were whispering. And then they called us to come in for lunch. And I had a feeling that there's something that they were talking about that I must know, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then my mother made a comment and she said, "Isn't it strange that she said this last week?" And she didn't mention my name, but I knew that I wonder if it's that thing that I said last week. And
Right.
my mother started saying how sad it was that it ended that way. And she couldn't believe that this has happened. And so, yes, I've had other experiences like that. I used to have them at school. I would just know, you know, things about other children. But because I was a loner as a kid, there were a lot of things that I didn't share with other children. So I could mention it sometimes. I could just throw it out, but many times I never shared. So I think that in my being a quiet child that didn't, you know, chat a lot with other children. I mean, I played with other children, but I didn't have like long conversations with children, and I didn't have like a best friend because we lived so far away from school. Lived out of town, so I didn't have little kids that I played with. So there were a lot of things that I kept to myself that I knew. So
What I was fascinated about was just how spirit, because you said you had other things that had happened, but spirit was very intelligent, and as they always are. And that's what I'm hearing in your story, is that they're working with a way of getting hold of you that would catch your attention. So
yes,
you've got the physical phenomena. And even in this case, if you would recognize it, there's an instance where you've said this out loud about this gentleman. And in fact, even though your dad's heard it in advance, somehow it probably created a preparation for him as well. So
yes,
I love listening to the story that you're telling, because even with your brother immediately, right? I know, do you get this when people show up for mediumship sessions, for mental mediumship consultations? Do you find that sometimes people think that, oh, they just died recently, they passed on recently, they're not going to be able to come through this quickly? And I mean, you've just given evidence with your story that your brother was like, oh, no, no. As soon as he, was released from the physical form, he probably was running around trying to find all the ones that he loved and say goodbye, and
yes,
give them that love in return. And even if he couldn't do it with words, he was going to do it somehow. He's going to bring attention to it. And would you say that after all these years, like you said, you remember this particular instance because it's your brother, now all these years later, right? Even though you didn't know at the exact moment that it was him, it gives you peace of mind now. Do you find that?
it does. It
Yeah.
does. It does. It definitely does give me peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it
It-
does.
the intelligence of spirit is absolutely incredible. I'm in awe of it. That calls me back all the time to mediumship. It's like, what's next? What are they going to do now that's going to show me and prove to me that this universe is incredible? Yeah.
Absolutely. And also the thing that I find most fascinating is the evidence that you get from them and the things that they share, the memories that they share. And also, they many times want to make up for things that they didn't say, things that they didn't do. And that is very healing for someone who is hearing that, especially when they think that they were not loved or they were not forgiven. It's such a relief. It brings such peace to the one that is grieving, the one that feels that we never said goodbye. And I wish I had that one chance to say, I'm sorry, oh, I love you, you know, or I could have been there, but I couldn't make it. And just to know that, hey, I knew that you were coming and I knew that you wouldn't make it, but I was still with you as you were trying to come to my side before I passed. So it's that that really touches me each and every time, each and every time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I love that you bring that up because we are we have moments of joy in our life. We have moments of sincerity and seriousness. We have these heavy emotions. We have light emotions. And you're pointing out that when we're seeking a medium, we hold space for that sincerity. We hold space for that seriousness. And yet there's this joy that we emulate in the work that we do that reminds people to find it within themselves. And
yeah,
that therein helps with the reassurance that everything will be okay, even though I feel in utter grief. I feel like my life may have fallen apart here and my loved one is still with me. So maybe there's a way that I can move through this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it's not to say that if you go for a reading that you stop mourning or that you stop grieving. Grieving, grief will carry on for as long as, it's going to, you're going to have to deal with it because this is a person that was life in so many ways. And you had a relationship together. You shared so many things together, pain, joy, success, failures, you were able to have conversation with them, to share your most, intimate secrets or, problems. And now they're not there. There's this void that is left there. That is what is so painful. It's just knowing that I will never see them again, in the flesh. I will never be able to touch them or to hug them or to do anything for them because they are no longer there. It's like this, your ties have been severed forever. So that, that ultimate feeling of like it's over is so hard. So to just know that, you know, they've just moved on to another life that is still a part of your life. It's just that you can't see them, but they are very much aware of you, just like you are aware of them, in your spirit.
I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of people that recognize mediumship as we do it as mental mediums, where we bring in the reassurance, the support, maybe sometimes the joy and the humor as well. They recognize that because we see a lot of that.
yeah,
What I've experienced, and I know you have too, because we practice trance, we study trance, we bring spirit through in the trance state. And then there's also the physical mediumship, and then there's the inspirational speaking. All mediumship will affect us in accordance with what that frequency brings forward and the degree to which spirit can work with their medium in order to connect with their spirit person. So recently I had the experience of doing trance, and I know you've done this as well, Betty, where we offer up to spirit in trance, before we go into trance, we offer up to spirit, hey, perhaps somebody can come today from the spirit world that directly knows one of our sitters that is listening into the trance. And so it would be an extended and more deep version of communication with your spirit loved one, where the information then just comes through in their pitch, their sound of voice, in the cadence of their speaking pattern, and even in the room itself. You can feel the aliveness in a much deeper way than you ever would with mental mediumship, or at least for the most part. And you've had that experience too, have you not?
yes, yes, I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Do you
I have.
recall anything that's happened for you in that regard that it was striking for you as a medium in that experience?
I have had, I've had a grandmother come through. I've had my mother come through, and it's been absolutely amazing that their personality, their even their humor, and also when they give evidence of their life around you right now, that has always that has always fascinated me. That has always been like totally blown me away because to think that they can come through and speak as they do. And mind you, when you're doing trance, they don't necessarily speak with their own voice. They use the voice of the medium. But even though the medium doesn't speak the language that you speak, or doesn't have the accent that you have, but the information that comes is absolutely accurate. The way they would have said it, the way they would have expressed it, it's so exact. And that's an experience that every time it happens, it's like, wow. Imagine if I had to hear it with their own voice, what would that be like?
Yeah.
And that is something that I have often wondered, that when they are sharing that, when they are speaking through that medium, and depending on what intention has been set or what you're asking, I always like to visualize that they're sitting right there in front of me, and they're part of me and the medium, or the sitter and the medium, and they sit with you, and you feel like they're part of that conversation. It's for me, it just brings me to a place of just knowing that my mother is always here. She, that like they are not far. And in mediumship, I know we bring a lot of a lot of evidence that you can take, that or the sitter can take and say, oh yes, I can take that, I can take that. But there's certain evidence that comes that is really exceptional, that there's no one who would know but them. And that is so much proof that you are speaking to your loved one, or that, whoever is coming through that trance is your father or your mother. Absolutely, yeah.
In the days of old, there were many mediums. They would have the direct voice happening, right? Where in
Yes.
the physical situation, the physical mediumship situation, an ectoplasmic voice box gets created, and
Yes.
then you would be able to hear your person's voice, which is just mind-blowing. It's just wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And when I read about the pioneers, and like when I read about Leonora Piper,
Yes.
and I read about Eileen Garrett, and we don't have that these days. We don't have um, mediums that are of the same, cut the same way as they were. And it's different now, but it's just fascinating. And I ask myself, if I lived during that time, would I believe it? Would I doubt it the way they would doubt it, the way they were tested, the way, they were persecuted for having that wonderful gift. And today we all want to have it. We all wish that we could work like that, you know?
I think it's human nature though. Like even today when we do, say, platform demonstrations, right? Or even in privates, people, unless it comes directly to them, they may still doubt it. Unless it touches them at their heart level, they could hear their friend get this beautiful message with
Yeah.
all the evidence, deep evidence, like you talked about, and wonderful proof that this person that couldn't know them at all is going to transfer this information in a way that's meaningful to their friend. They could still go away doubting unless they're touched by it. So I don't know if human nature would have changed much between them, but I am curious if you've ever given any thought to why it is that maybe there's not a need nowadays, or there aren't as many mediums that are working with that level of frequency for that outcome, and that we're now doing so we're redirected. Have you given some thought to that at any point?
Yeah, I've given that thought to that. And I think that is because we are all living in different times. And during the times of the pioneers, they didn't have access to electronics. They didn't have access to many things that we have, the internet. Um, they couldn't Google anything. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that the mediums of today are using electronics and all that, But our minds, I think that our minds have been bombarded by so many things today that I think that sometimes it affects the way we work with spirit. I think that the mediums of the past could go into a deeper meditation than we do today. I think that because they were not, they didn't have all the distractions that we have today. So I think that that could be the reason. That's my personal thought about that. That could be the reason. Because think about yourself. You're on your phone all the time. You're looking up something, you're talking on the phone, you are doing research, and that constant bombardment with electronics and all that, I think it takes away your concentration, and you have to be disciplined, to say that I will look at my phone only when I need to check my emails or anything like that. But it's difficult because now we're working with electronics. We are on Zoom. Look, the way we are, talking now. We are over Zoom, and you're way over in where? New York State, in LILYDALE, and I'm in Massachusetts, and we're chatting like you're just next door. So
Exactly.
so and we can talk to anybody anywhere. So I think that we have so many distractions, a lot of distractions, that sometimes might work, a little negatively for us, but it also works very positively for us because we are able to communicate in this way. We are able to reach out to so many more people, and you're able to network with new friends, you make new friends. You know who is teaching what, who's very good at this or who's very good at that, who's a very good medium, who's a very good tutor, where there's a college or there's a course going on online, and all that. So I feel that as time goes by, things change. That's what I
Yeah, I
think.
think you're pointing to something that is explaining why so many people now are saying, "Oh, I feel I have intuition," or "I'm wondering what this is and that is," and they're being more open to it because they're more exposed to it. They're seeing that it's okay and that they're not so-called crazy because they're having these communications. And so it's almost like we probably, and this is just me throwing it out there, it's not an absolute, perhaps now spirits reaching us to support us in our own individual everyday ability as individual people and souls walking this earth plane, that we can connect with our own people. We
Yeah.
don't just need to rely on a medium we've never met or see on a platform or in a public demonstration where we can't really talk to that medium. We are starting to recognize that we have the power within us to bring that forward and to communicate with those we love directly. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting there that you were saying was the fact that as recipients of messages, and as I said earlier, you want to touch our hearts. Going forward, one of the things you said about being a recipient, but also being a medium, is this idea of the phones. And one of the things that has come up recently for me is the radiation that comes from the phone, the magnetic field. It often makes me wonder, and the Wi-Fi everywhere, if it does affect our electromagnetic fields, right, as mediums, because that interference isn't just in our hand, it's all around us. So I don't really want to go down on the rabbit hole on this one too far because I'm not a scientist and I haven't done research, but it is something that's been coming up in my mind in accord to what you're talking about, Betty, about how you said, we're not necessarily going as deep in our trance or in our mediumship connections as we may have as mediums in the past. And the question's out there for people to respond to about whether we are we're adapting to a new circumstance and being influenced by the fields around us. So that's just something to think about for the later.
Yeah, well, it's just things that I've pondered over about that because we don't know. I'm not a scientist, but we don't know how much how much electronics, holding the phone all day, or being around that does to us. We don't know. There are a lot of advantages. I mean, I have to say, there's so many advantages to having this technology. And I enjoy it. I use it all the time, So it's just that it's hard to tell, because I think about the mediums of the pioneers. They didn't have any technology like this. So, and they didn't have, like right now, you and I and everybody else, you can go online and you can Google information, and you can start reading about things that happened in Egypt, some phenomena that happened somewhere else. All this information is out there. And all that gets us thinking. We start thinking much deeper about our beliefs. And that's what makes us become, thinkers, deep thinkers, philosophy. We start looking at that. We start hearing about different cultures and different belief systems. And so we have all that at our disposal. And that is a wonderful thing, and all this helps us to grow as individuals. Each person has got their own spiritual journey, and you will believe what you want to believe, and you will take what you find out there and decide what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And so we now have access to a world of information, a wealth of information that helps us. And I know that even yourself, I'm sure that, there are books that you probably would not have known about if you didn't have access to the internet,
Right.
There are people that have touched your life spiritually that you would never have heard of before if we didn't have this technology.
I
And
wouldn't
so,
have met you, right?
yes,
We met
the same for me.
online
Yeah,
originally, yeah, and then
yes,
you came to
yes.
LILYDALE
Yeah,
and
so
Mediumship.
I don't know whether it was a bad thing that they didn't have, to say it's that they were at a disadvantage or not. But it's just, when
Different.
I think about it, you know, everybody will have their own opinion about that. Yeah.
Yes, and I was just curious to bring it up. And I think it's a wonderful segue into the inspired address because we're speaking of how the voice of spirit comes through in different forms, different ways, different eras. And there are people out there that don't want to connect with their loved one, but could still benefit from mediumship, could still benefit from listening to a medium bring through spirit information, whether it is conceptual, whether it's philosophy, whether it's anecdotes from a circumstance that is relatable. So I know you are an inspired speaker and you've been inspiring or aspiring to be a professional speaker as a medium for some time now and training with some great professionals along the way that are adept at doing this. And now yourself, you're starting to do some teaching in this area, correct?
Yes, I am going into teaching, inspirational talk. Um,
And you have one coming up. Do you have the date for that?
yes, I have one coming up and it's next week, Saturday. And it's Inspired Talk. And I'm actually doing it together with another medium from the Netherlands. She is going to do the trance speaking part of it, and I'm going to do the Inspired Talk. And it's going to be a 2-hour session, and it's a very small fee of $25. And it's for those who are looking to do inspired speaking. It's just to give them, just to put your foot in and see, what it's about, and learn what an address is and an inspired talk is, and actually try it out, and then look to finding your own teacher who can help you on your journey. So it's an introduction to inspired talk and trance speaking. That's what it's about.
Now, some people can get confused. So if you're getting up on the platform as a medium and you're not doing spirit communication, you're not bringing through a loved one, and you're not going into trance, and you're not going to do physical mediumship. So you're up there to be a speaker, to do a talk. Some people will think that you're going to channel if you reference inspired address. Can you explain to us how you understand what an inspired address is and how it works?
So if you go to a divine service, okay, you would have someone who is the guest speaker who would be giving a spiritual address. That spiritual address, spiritualist address, it can be inspired, and that doesn't mean that they would be standing and channeling anyone or channeling their guide or anything like that. It would be something that they are inspired to speak about. So when I will do an inspired talk, if I'm invited to do that, to do an address, I will talk to my guides and ask for them to inspire me with what want me to share. Is there anything that you want me to talk about? And they can give me an idea, and they can tell me, this is what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about love, or we're going to talk about fear, or anything like that. And so when I'm standing on the platform, it's not necessarily that I am downloading information from a guide or anything like that, because I would be preparing myself for the address. I would prepare myself to speak on that topic. So I would probably be preparing some notes or some reading up about love, or looking for a poem that has been written by someone influential, or someone like maybe Rumi or Khalil Gibran, or anybody like that. So I would read that. Reading that will inspire me to speak on that topic that I'm going to speak about. So it can be, it will be inspired because the idea came from my guide or my spirit teacher. So it'll be a blend of both. So it'll be my consciousness speaking and that of my guide. So it's not a channel. You're not channeling. So you're not standing there and beginning to channel, but you are speaking. You will be including your life experience. You might bring in something about your own life that relates to the topic that you're speaking about, what you've been inspired to speak about everyday life. The thing is, the inspired talk is supposed to nurture or to nourish the listener. It's supposed to inspire them. It's supposed to motivate them. It's supposed to just light a spark within themselves to think about that topic that you're talking about, because it might relate to them. It might be something that they really needed to hear. If you read a few lines from a poem or a quote, that can really touch them. And if you expand on that through the inspiration that you're getting as you're speaking, that can really hold the attention of those that you're speaking to. And there's something that you're sharing, something that they are getting from that. And so it's not channeling. It's not like, when you're doing trance speaking, I think you are actually speaking from, you're speaking from the communicator.
Mm-hmm. You can feel the presence of spirit directly with you.
Presence of spirit. So this is not, it's not the same.
Giving you the information.
Yes.
Distributed. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. And so if you've done this and you wanted to do more of it, would you recommend training for people?
Absolutely. I would. I definitely would do that. It also depends on what do you want to use it for? Do you want to speak at the church, or do you want to just be a speaker? But whichever way you want to go, you can never go wrong with learning how to present yourself as a speaker, and how to grab the attention of your audience, how to prepare yourself. There's so many things like, for me, I know when I did my very first one, I was trembling, and because there were so many people, and I thought it was on Zoom, and I felt like there's all these faces that are looking at me, and what if I don't speak properly? What if I start to ramble? There's that stage fright, and also feeling like maybe I shouldn't even be here. What am I doing?
That the imposter syndrome that people
Yes, exactly. What,
yeah.
should I even be doing this? Well, why did I say yes? And you have to work through all those things because they are real. Being nervous is very real. Being fearful of standing in front of an audience is real. So, and being able to do the delivery in an eloquent and clear, concise way is all that is important. Yeah. So
Practice.
yes, definitely get yourself a really good teacher. Yes.
So two questions around that. You mentioned the nervousness. And so that first question is about how you resolve and work with your nervousness even today after some experience. And then the other question is, I've just lost it. The other question was related to, well, answer the first one because that's an important one, about the nervousness. If I remember the other one, I'll come back to it.
Okay. So from what I do is, in fact, this is what I learned from my mentor, was to stand in front of the mirror. You know what you're going to talk about, and you know that they're going to be all these people. So you stand in front of the mirror and you introduce yourself
Mm.
to the mirror. You introduce talking to a crowd. You can't see them, but hey, they're there. So you introduce yourself. This is how you're going to introduce yourself, and this is how you're going to start speaking. Maybe you're going to read a little 2 lines from somewhere, or you're going to start with a joke, or maybe you're going to talk about the weather, and then you're going to go into what you're going to talk about, or something that just happened, or you're going to bring in one of the 7 principles. You're going to talk about the first principle or the second principle, and whatever it is, do it in front of the mirror. Another thing is, I don't know about other people, but some people, myself included, I like to know whether I sound right. So I practice that and I record myself. And so I will start speaking and standing in front of the mirror, and I will start speaking and I'll be recording myself, and then I'll stop at a certain point, and then I'll hit play and I'll think, oh, that sounds terrible. Or I shouldn't have said it that way. I think I could change the tone of my voice, or I could be that. Yeah. So yes, those kind of things.
And
They
by recording it, you would hear when you would say things like, or
mhm.
that kind of
Yes,
thing, right? And you'd
yes,
learn to be patient with the pause instead of putting in the or the ah.
yes. Or you're talking too fast.
Oh, I have a habit of
Yes,
that.
yeah, or
Yeah.
you're talking too fast, and you're not giving them time to listen in between when you've said something. Just that
Well,
they.
especially if you're saying something important, it makes sense that you would pace yourself so that they would have time to absorb what it is you're saying, like you just said.
Yes, yes, yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes,
So
yes,
now you're practicing ahead of time. You're in front of your mirror. So you're getting used to what you're going to say, or at least even if you change the words, you're kind of in the right ballpark, as we might say.
yes,
And then you're seeing yourself. So you're getting used to even looking at yourself. So you don't have to carry with you the fear of someone seeing you or looking at you. So that makes sense. And then when you get up there, how does it change from the mirror to the platform? So when you get in that moment when it's like, okay, now it is real, well, how do you help yourself through that?
Well, first of all, when you're like, because I've done it only on Zoom, um, you, as soon as you're told that now you have the floor, I always find that it's the way you greet the audience that helps you to um, to get into that momentum. So, just scanning the audience and smiling and greeting everyone and maybe acknowledging a person or two that that all that helps you it can help you. Sometimes you might be speaking and there's so many friends that are there or people who um, you have known of helped you in some way, and then you just mention them. Um, and then you can talk about the weather, or you can just straight away just ask um, straight into it, especially if you know that today I'm going to talk about, let's say, when was the last time that you felt um, the presence of God in your life? When was the last time you just felt that present and felt that you were blessed, or that kind of thing? And you ask that question, and then you pause and you find everybody.
So it sounds
I
like there's,
remember I did,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Tell your story.
yeah, because I remember once one that I did where I started off with what does God mean to you, you know or I you sometimes you can use, like, something might have happened just before you started speaking, maybe at that event or at the service, something went wrong. You can, take that and use that as to just lighten up the mood for yourself and those around you, and see the humor in what happened, and then start from there. And that helps you to just relax a little bit, and then you straight away go into what you were going to speak about, depending on what you decided. But yes, I will tell you that sometimes you can prepare, and say, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to say, and all that. But when you get there, it can change.
Right.
It can change, but it doesn't change for the bad. It sometimes
Oh.
changes for the best, you know.
Well, you've got spirit supporting you, you've got the attentions on you. So
Yes,
your performance energy is there. And I'm not saying you're doing a performance, but there is something about our magnetic field that happens when we know people are looking at us. There's that performance expansiveness that can happen. Our nerves actually support that and we get excited. So it's actually very positive. Uh,
yes, yes.
but I love how you've talked about this because that transition, like you're making it sound like it's really important that moment to put ourselves at ease by those opening options, right? It's not like there's one way to do it. You can segue in and transition from something somebody else said, or maybe the music even, right? If you like the
Yeah,
song,
the music,
you can
especially
bring
the music.
so often the
It's
music
amazing.
themed to what
Yeah.
you're going to end up inspiring us with anyway, right?
Oh, yes, yes. And talking about the music, you find that you could come, has happened for me before, you could go to the service and think that you're going to talk about something specifically, but the music can inspire you in such a fantastic way. You listen to the lyrics of the music, and also you listen to the opening prayer, and you find that there seems to be something that is, you know, it's aligning together. And then maybe there's a second piece of music and all of it seems to be coming together. And then you find that your inspiration is being drawn from that. And you start speaking. And from without any preparation or anything like that, you're just speaking, just using all this information that you got. And then you find that things are coming to you about maybe real life situations, something that you read, or a certain author wrote something that it really pertains to what you're discussing right now. And then you quote them. It's so beautiful when it all comes together. so nicely like that. Yeah.
So it's like you're connecting to the sea of consciousness, and then you're inspired also within that. So
Yes.
take
Yes.
this level for your listeners.
Yes.
And it's nice because if you transition that well, you'll be relatable to the listeners because they're already on board with what's been
Yes.
happening in the room prior,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they come along for the ride with you, which is pretty cool. I know
Yes.
I think I heard your first talk. I think I should
Yeah.
for that, and I thought you did really, really well. And I remember that question. That's what triggered my memory on it. And
Yeah.
it's a big question, isn't it? It's a big
Yeah.
question. And it gives you the opportunity to take it in so many directions and leave open-ended questions for that inspiration. Yeah, you did a great
Yeah.
job.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't heard you talk recently. I'm going to have to catch up on that.
Well, I haven't talked for a while, actually. Yes.
Yeah. Is
Yes.
there anything else that you want to share with the audience that is helpful in regard to experiencing inspired address or getting themselves ready to do a talk that might be helpful to them?
Well, like I said, the first thing is, decide if that's something that you really, really want to do. And then try and see where you can find someone that can help you with that to teach you. Um, and also, I found for me was reading, like reading a lot of philosophy books that are written by people who talk about spirituality, spiritualism. All those things help to open your mind. Like when you're talking, I find that it's so helpful because that information comes to you. Remembering
You would also get it from your sitting in the power as well, right? When
you
spirit
can get that as well. Yes, yeah. If
in, talking to your spirit guides, getting
yes,
that.
talking to your spirit guides, yeah. You know, spiritualizing yourself really, really helps you a lot with that. Yes, but yeah, definitely find a teacher. I would say that's what I would say. Find yourself a good teacher and see what it is that you really want to do. If you want to do it for divine service, or do you just want to do it as a speaker at you know at a event or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, that brings up a good point because you could work in your community as a speaker
Yeah.
at senior centers, community centers, things like that as well. You don't just have to restrict it to the church situation.
No, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can be a professional speaker. You could be a motivational speaker as well, and you could be motivating people to in spirituality. You could be someone that speaks about that, you know. So, and I think there are a lot of people that are advertising and teaching, helping you with that career move if you're into that, if you're looking at that.
Right. And then you would know how to dress, how to carry yourself. It would be slightly different probably in the different contexts, I would guess.
Yes, yes,
I've watched other people speak. It's like, yeah, people speaking like Anthony Robbins, right? Inspirational
yes,
motivational speaker speaks very differently than the people that I listen to in church when they go up and do a platform spot
yes,
inspiration talk. So yeah, wonderful. I think it's a wonderful art form. I know we talk about spiritualism being the science and the religion and the philosophy. I always feel like there's an element of art in there as well. Because living is an art in my books, it's like it's
yeah, yeah,
crafting of it that comes from that co-creation using the natural laws. It's like, how are you going to craft, how are you going to create and design what you're going to present and how you want to present yourself and how you want to have that relationship with spirit come through your soul. So when you're doing inspired address, do you find that I know a lot of people like to separate like the higher self from the I don't know if you'd say lower self, but the higher self, the spiritual self. Do you find when you're doing your address that you're moving through your own states of awareness in different ways, or do you just kind of lock up into what I'm just going to call, for the sake of it, higher self? Have you ever given that any thought in terms of what self?
Okay, so I'm not sure about whether it's my higher self or what I do know is this, that I give my speaking very special. What I do is I always talk to my guides about when I'm going to speak, because I believe that the inspired speaking that you're doing or the address that you're doing, there are people who are listening to you because they are just looking to grow. They are looking to receive something new, something to think about, something thought-provoking, something that they can take with them and go and run with it, go find out more about it, add it to their lives, make a change to motivate them. So I always feel it's important for me to communicate with my guides. And so my guides will give me, I feel they will always give me the ideas, they will give me the thoughts, they will give me the information, because when you are going to speak in front of people, wherever it is that you're invited to speak, there are people there who have come to receive a message of nourishment, something they want to get out of it. They are not coming for a medium message. They are not coming to hear from anyone in this, from the spirit world, their loved one or anything. They are now coming to hear something. So what is it that you want to tell them? What do they need to know? Why should they listen to you? Why should they hear from you? So that's why I always feel that it doesn't have to be your personal message to the audience. It has to be also a message that is coming from the spirit world. And the spirit world already knows who is going to be present and who needs to hear something today. And you are the instrument and you are the messenger. You are the one who is coming to share that, to give that, to whisper that, to throw it out there. And so that's how I look at it. So I think that if you come from that angle, then it has a deep meaning. Then when you, oh, it's I'm just going to, or I'm going to, for my guides to come and just give me, everything that I'm going to say. And I think that it's not just your guides, it's you, it's both of you. You are the instruments, you are the person, you're the messenger,
Yeah,
you're the
beautiful.
motivator. You are bringing something that is going to touch somebody's soul, because a lot of people who are coming to listen, they are coming to listen because they want to hear something new. They already know about mediumship. They know about trance. They know about all that. But now they want something different. They want to share something with them. And that's why, like when you quote a poem or you quote something from Rumi or from Yogananda or even Gordon Higginson or the pioneers, any one of that, all those are inspiring. All those are things that the people will think about. All those are things that people will say, my goodness, I need to find that book. I like that quote. I wonder where it came from. I would like to, and when they do that, they are now beginning to grow, because they're going to find that book or they're going to find that poem. They're going to read it. They're going to feel inspired. They're going to feel they want to change something in their lives. They want to think differently. They're going to look at a situation differently. So it's just, you're inspiring a lot there. There's so much that you're giving. Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah. So thank you so much. I want to close out soon, and I want to, before we do that, I want to offer you the opportunity to share with us, because spiritual revelation goes on and is endless for each and every one of us. And I want to know if there's anything you want to share about mediumship in general, or about what it means to spiritualize yourself further in this ever unfolding path.
Well, I would say this, that spiritualizing yourself is an individual um, journey. It is something that each person will do in their own way. And to spiritualize yourself means that you are revisiting your relationship with God, or whatever name you give your higher power. That relationship, what do they mean to you? Who are you here on this earth? And how do you relate to other people? Where do you think you're going? Where are you going? What is your destination? And how can you be the best person that you can be as a human being? All those are questions that you ask yourself, and then you decide, what is the truth to you? What is the truth? What do you believe to be true? And that is to spiritualize yourself. From my perspective, what is your truth? You believe, because we all believe different things. And there are things that I may believe that somebody else will not. And so I would say that look into yourself and ask yourself, what is my truth? What do I believe to be really true? And go out there and seek your truth, because the truth is there. It's there in the spirit world. It's there with your guides. There is so much that you already know as a medium, but now it's time to take it a little bit further and ask yourself, what does all this mean to me? And where do I want to be? And who am I? And who is my neighbor? You know? And I think that that is the journey of spiritualizing yourself and being inquisitive about other things, about what other belief systems talk about. How can you incorporate some of that into your spiritualization, and so that it can make you be the best that you can be. Some will work for you, some will not work for you. Some will take you really far. Some will make you rediscover yourself, your relationship with who you call the powerful one, the creator of all that is. So I will leave you with that thought.
Lovely. Absolutely. Anyone that wants to get a hold of Betty, you'll see the links down below. She's teaching a class in a few days, and you want to check that out as well, sooner than later, obviously.
Yes.
And if you have any questions for Betty, I'm sure you can get a hold of her on her website. Her website is quite beautiful. And I appreciate you all coming today. Thank you so much for joining us. And know that we are continuing to explore the power, process, and privilege of speaking to spirit and being part of spirit ourselves. So thank you again, everyone. And thank you so much, Betty. It has been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's been wonderful. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you.